Hey YouTube, Poopslag here, and this is TurboFat, an open source puzzle game I'm making in Godot. Steam links below if you like what you see. And the past 2 months I've been working on this new area called Kflab, which is like a tropical island themed area, so it's had some new challenges and features like water that I hadn't added before. So let me show you what I've been up to. So every 2 months, I set aside a week to do some refactoring, which is just code cleanup and stuff like that. And one was this Godot 30668 had been around for a while, which meant you couldn't have static factory methods, but that was fixed. So I added static factory methods in a few places. And also I'd added these shark monsters that show up in puzzles, but I already had these moles and they had a lot of code in common. So I extracted all that common code in one place to cut down on the number of bugs and duplication. I like doing that sort of cleanup after the fact rather than trying to design these big complex systems ahead of time, because often I just end up never using those. So after refactoring week, I started writing the script for this Kflab area about all the islanders you'd meet and some jokes I wanted to tell and funny things that would happen. It started out being like 15 cutscenes, but then when it was done, I was like, some of these characters end up seeming like kind of jerks and stuff, so I want to add a few little post-credits cutscenes so you'll like them a little bit more. And then I sketched out some proof of concept areas like the little banana house where they all meet and what the island would look like and what it would look like inside and things like that. So next I had to make a new set of these ground sprite sheets that I use for each area because these are different colors. So every time I have to go into Clip Studio Paint, recolor each of these layers, export a new set of about 300 PNGs, import them into ASCPrite, and then export a sprite sheet. And I had thought, like, there is a fast way to do this, right? If I export a black and white sprite sheet, like a grayscale one, then I can apply a Clip Studio Paint gradient map on top of that, which will say something like the white parts should be this mocha shade of brown and the black parts should be this more coffee shade of brown, and it'll interpolate everything between that. It looks really good. I can't do this for my ground sprite sheets right now because they involve like more than one map and stuff, and I probably could have if I'd done it from the beginning. But in any case, these gradient maps are a real time saver. I did originally have them also in Godot, like at the shader level. Godot was doing this stuff, but it was just a little bit too much for like phones and stuff. They couldn't run all these shaders and a tile map. So, but this is better than nothing. It's still a lot faster to render. So water on the overworld was something that had been on my to-do list for at least like a year or two, but I always anticipated it was gonna be crazy because I already have like the goopless cake tiles and then the goop covered cake tiles and then the empty space. And just those three things meant I had to export like 300 PNGs. And I was like, if I had water to the mix, it's gonna be what, like 600, 1,000. But it wasn't anything. It was just like, since the water doesn't really connect to anything, it's just its own little layer and it's super easy. There are 4 water tile variations. So I have an auto tiler, which is just randomly shuffle between the 4 so that each tile isn't the exact same looking, you know? And then I also added some ripples on top of it in a separate layer, and those just also help just to add a little bit of variance. So the script I'd written had these 2 indoor areas I had to draw too. One was this banana HQ, this little big banana building that everybody meets inside sometimes. And the other was I wanted you to film sort of like a cooking blog or something, and so there's some camera equipment around, and I created this little dog camera guy who films you, and I think he's super adorable. I gave him some idle animations and stuff too. And lastly, there were just a bunch of little drawing activities. I got to draw like the plants and little banana bits that are outside. I got to write all the chat script files, like the little cutscenes are written in my own little language, which says which characters are talking, which way they're facing, what their mood is, if they're happy or sad. And I got to design this whole island with this path that you follow through career mode, because you'll like start on this side, and as you beat more levels, you'll go over to that side. And then there's a victory screen when you finish career mode, and I got to decorate that. Every chapter has its own little button, so I got to make a little scene for that where there's like a guy who's carrying someone else up on a chair, and you'll know who those characters are eventually, but I think that's a cute scene. And then there's a little progress window which pops up in career mode too to say like, oh, here it is, and it looks like it's hastily written in chalk, but obviously I have to draw that stuff. So lastly, a couple of people on the community Discord had reported some bugs they encountered while playtesting the game. And one was, for example, when you play at 20G, the pieces drop like instantly, but it does still drop them one cell at a time because it will let you like wedge a piece to a gap if you're holding the direction, but it would only wedge a piece over by one cell. So now instead, it'll wedge the piece over like infinitely many cells, which lets you do some slightly cooler moves. Also, someone had made some custom cutscenes where the characters would face away from the screen and then do emotes, and it looked really goofy. So now I just don't let you emote if you're doing that. Like, just don't break my game, please. So that's it for July and August. We got this whole visuals and story for this new Kflab area done. And next I'm going to work on the levels and gimmicks, and that shouldn't really take a whole month. I think I'll knock that out in a few weeks. But the coolest thing was like this whole area just took me about 2.5 weeks, I think it will, from start to finish, which is nice because we got 2 chapters left. and I want it to be done with like the alpha by April 2023. And what done with the alpha means is like the main story stuff from start to finish is there. Some of the screens might look a little rough, or there might be some bugs, or like, hey, this could look prettier. That's nice, but the game is sort of, it's a full game, right? And I think we're sort of on target for that, so I'm really happy. And if you want to try out the game so far, it is already on itch.io, and you can download it off your GitHub. But I also really appreciate it if you wishlist it on Steam, just to help those numbers or whatever. But overall, just thanks so much for watching, and I hope you try out the game, and I hope you like it. See you guys next month.